Welcome to the Paisans podcast. We're your hosts, the brothers from other mothers, Dante, Dave, and Sarc. Join us as we talk about current events, our wives, kids, or whatever else life is throwing at us this week. You're with the Paisans, you're with family.
Is Danielle's bachelorette party was the same weekend as my bachelor party. She was in Montreal, she had a crazy story getting back. Her flight got canceled coming back, so she had to basically get a taxi to the border, walk across the border, get another taxi in Vermont to drive them to the airport so they could rent a car, because they couldn't rent a car from Canada because it had to be returned in Canada. So they had so they have like all these videos of them literally walking across the border.
Well, it's a story she'll tell for the rest of her life.
It wouldn't be a bachelorette or a bachelor party if you didn't have something like that, I feel like.
Right? Yeah. Do you have anything like that?
Not quite like that, except I was in AC and we were in an Airbnb and we were literally behind a crack house. Like there was a house that was abandoned. And then our Airbnb was behind that. And I'm like pretty positive it was a crack house because we saw a lot of shady characters around that place.
Oh my gosh.
I really wish I could tell my buddy's story about what he did, but I don't think I can because it's, I just don't know if I can. It was pretty.
You don't want to incriminate anybody,
right? It was pretty ridiculous when he was by himself, he came back at like 7 a.m. It was just like telling us these stories about how he was like walking with some crackhead or something. Like he was like, I ended up asking her like what her life story was, how she got to this point.
Wow. Oh man.
He was going crazy that first night. So, like I said, I wish I could tell more of it, but I can't.
So take us into it, Dave. I mean, we'll get to this. We're going to talk about this, and we'll talk about my surgery too. Unfortunately, I couldn't go because I was recovering from surgery, which has its own story to tell. But you guys went to Atlantic City for your bachelor party.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I would have been there if I could have. But when did you go? Did you go Friday? You went down Friday, right?
Yeah. So I drove down Friday. So I took off Friday, and I took off Monday from work, but we were back on by Sunday. We drove down Friday. I drove down with a couple of my friends I went to high school with. They're still local. And then, so it was mostly guys that I went to high school with that were there. And then I had my one friend from college. My best friend from college was also there. So we just, we drove down there Friday, kind of just hung out at the Airbnb. We were supposed to go to dinner, but, I messed up the time. I thought it was at 9 p.m. It was actually at 7 p.m. So we missed that. That was like supposed to be like a nice fancy dinner at a steakhouse and everything, but so we just completely missed that. Yeah. Danielle's friend actually got us the reservation because she lives down in that area, and her mother is like some big director, so she like called in favors and everything to get us this reservation, and yeah, it was bad. Admittedly, like her friend told me the wrong time. Like if I can defend myself, her friend told me 9 o'clock. So yeah, so. So we ended up
show up at 9 o'clock, or did you know by 9 o'clock?
What happened was I was getting texts from the restaurant like, hey, like your reservation's coming up. So I was like, oh yeah, we're good. And then they're like, okay, great, we'll see you at 7. And I was like, what? It was like 6:30. I was like, wait, what? I was like, what do you mean 7? And then I called them and they're like, yeah, your reservation's at 7. I was like, all right, we're not making it. I was like, half of my party's here. I was like, we're not ready at all. I was like, we're not coming. So we had to cancel like 20 minutes before, basically.
Yeah. Oh man, that sucks.
So I mean, first night we were like 3 blocks away from the Tropicana, so we just kind of hopped down there, went to some shitty barbecue restaurant bar for some dinner. It was fine, and then we went to some club and ended up being there for most of the night. Like,
did you guys get bottle service?
Yeah, we got bottles, and so it was fun. It was cool. But I was like, I was there till like 3 a.m, and I was like, I had to leave because I was sitting in a chair and I caught myself like nodding off. It looked like I was on drugs. Yeah. I was like, all right. I was like, I got to get out of here. I was like, I'm way too tired and drunk. So I left with like a couple of my other friends, and then 2 of my friends stayed around. One of them being the guy who was like fraternizing with the crackheads at like 7 a.m.
What does bottle service work like? Like, I'm kind of curious. What is it? Like
basically you overpay for
a bottle or something. Right?
Yeah, you overpay for a bottle, and they give you a table with like all the mixers, and you have a place to basically sit, essentially.
Okay. Yeah.
So we ended up getting way too many bottles. There was like 5 of us, and for some reason we got 2 bottles. I don't know why we did that. Like they're big bottles, so it's like you got to try to drink it. We were literally trying to give it away to people. We were like, "Hey, can you please take our alcohol?" And people were not even taking it. They were like,
"Yeah, I believe it." They're like, "What'd you put in this?"
Right. Yeah. And then like one girl came over and she's like, "I just want the soda." So she just like was drinking soda. I'm like, "We have 2 bottles here. Like we need help with the alcohol, not the soda."
Wow.
Wow. Were you drinking champagne?
No, we were drinking tequila, so that was probably what drove us to
contributed.
Yeah.
I didn't know they brought out bottles of tequila. I always just assumed it was champagne.
Yeah, or like vodka. Like vodka's usually
but it's probably whatever you order, right? I assume you tell them.
You could get a bottle of scotch, I think, if you want. I don't know why you do that, but I think you could. So and it was cool. Like, I'm not a big club person, but it's my bachelor party, so I was like, whatever, I'll do that. We went to a bar first and actually saw some live music, and that was actually pretty good.
That's cool.
Like that's more my scene, but the club was cool. It was like it's kind of weird. It was like they tried to be almost like a strip club in some ways. Like they had some girl dancing on the stage, just like, on a pole essentially. And they would rotate her out like every half hour or so. It was just like these 2 girls would just go back. But they weren't nude or anything, but they were, in their lingerie.
Yeah. That's kind of a classic dance club thing. Somebody dancing and, makes everybody feel like they can dance. Which I get. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, I guess.
I guess.
Didn't make me feel like I could dance, that's for sure.
They didn't make you get up and do be like to the pole or anything like that. No tricks or anything like that. Okay.
I tried to take my shirt off, but they wouldn't allow it. I'm just kidding. I didn't know they did.
Oh, all right. I was like, what? Okay.
So that was the first night. Honestly, I got awoken by my friend coming back into the house, explaining some of his, ridiculousness. So then I ended up talking to him because he ended up leaving the club and he's like, I had 2 vodka Red Bulls. And he's like, I don't know why I did that. So he's like, he was wired at like 8 in the morning. He was completely wired. So I kept telling him, I was like, you got to sleep, man. Like we had a whole plan. Like the second day we were going to do was bar crawl. And he was like, I'm so sorry, man. He's like, I didn't mean to like get like this. He's like, I don't think I'm going to make it. I was like,
man.
I was like, you need to sleep. I was like, I don't even care. You need to sleep. I was like, just go to sleep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he actually ended up rallying for the afternoon session.
Surprised himself.
Right. Well, I was surprised, honestly, because I was telling everyone else, I was like, he's in bad shape. I was like, there's no way he can. And then, of course,
did you ask him if he actually tried crack when he was hanging out with the crack addicts?
I didn't, because I actually don't think I wanted to know that, but based on what he was telling me, I think he would have told me, because he was telling me like everything else he did with them, and it was pretty no shame at all. So I think if he did, he would have told me that he did that. But so I guess you have like 1 or 2 of those guys at a bachelor party. You kind of need that for kind of fun's sake.
Seems like there's always at least one.
There's got to be at least one guy who just like
goes off the rails,
embarrasses himself. So goes off the rails. Exactly. This way, like you need a story to tell. I don't know, Mike. Maybe at my bachelor party, I don't think there was anything like that, if I recall. Things pretty much stayed on point for my bachelor party. Your bachelor party had a couple of moments where it almost went off the rails.
Oh, it did. Yeah, it certainly did. Yeah. And I had, you have family there. So, it's, even though you're the guest of honor, and I felt some responsibility, for my family members, like my, for example. We won't name names, but
we won't name names, right?
He kind of went. He disappeared.
He had a great time. He enjoyed himself.
And then his cousin went to find him, and this was also in the middle of the night.
Yes.
So he just disappeared. And his story was that he woke up in a field, I think it was, in a like a farmer's field. And he had no shoes or socks. He completely lost. Like, he never found the shoes or socks. And he woke to his cousin Ryan on a bicycle, like shaking him awake. And Ron's story was, well, I stole some dude's bicycle to go look for Lou. And they both made it back at like 3 a.m.
Yeah. Well, we were worried about Lou. We didn't know where he was. And then it was like this whole concern. And then it was like, okay, Ron's going to find him, basically. And, you know how it is, too. You're trying to balance all these things. Like, we got a whole bunch of guys here. Like, we can't all just, like, scatter and go looking for, like, there weren't cell phones at the time.
Yeah.
Certainly not to the degree that there are today, where you could stay in constant contact with one another.
And I tried to say to myself, like, just enjoy it. They'll be back.
Exactly.
Don't go look for them. Stay with your friends. Mm-hmm. And they eventually came back. But Ryan said, well, I saw a guy ride his bike up to like a 7-Eleven or a Wawa. And he went inside. He's like, so I grabbed the bike. I just took off and I started calling Lou's name. And I found him in a field with no shoes.
So, Dave, did you guys have the bar crawl then? You started the bar crawl on Saturday?
So we ended up not really doing a bar crawl. We went to like 2 bars. And then we ended up at this. Yeah, we ended up at this like beach bar that ended up having like a pool party kind of thing. So we were like, all right, we'll just stay here. Like this is a cool vibe. So we were there, and that was fun. Danielle's brother actually came down for that, which was
nice,
which was cool because him and I haven't hung out quite like that yet. He's like 10 years younger than me, and he didn't know anyone. And he's of this Gen Z generation, or between Gen Z millennial generation, where he gets very like what's it called? He gets very anxiety about meeting new people and. So he put like all that like he put that all behind him. He just like went in. He was really good. He met all my friends. He was
nice.
He got drunk. He threw up a little bit.
Oh well, all good signs.
Well, I mean, at one point I told him, I was like, I gotta like kind of look out for him because I don't know what he's capable of. Quite honestly, I'm not sure what he can do.
Oh, that's legit. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's Daniel's little brother, so I want to make sure he's like he doesn't get hurt or something like that. So at one point after the bar, we come back and I notice he's not hanging out with us. I was like, where is he? So I go upstairs and I find him in his bedroom and he's laying in bed with a blanket over his face. I was like, hey, I was like, you good? He's like, yeah, I'm okay. He's like, I just threw up a little bit, so I just need to rest a little right now. I was like, all right. I just let him rest, and he came back down in like an hour. He was fine. So
good for him. Yeah, you see,
that's great.
Yeah, he rallied. It was good. I was happy that he was there.
That's nice.
Because
was that at the bars, or that was there before?
Well, he came out to the bars with us, and he threw up back at the house, like back at the Airbnb.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was interesting. I mean, you mentioned family, Mike. I mean, and obviously, Dante, I know you had a valid reason, but my other brother Rob wasn't there. And then my brother-in-law Dave was supposed to come, and he had to kind of cancel like a week or two before. But he actually I was pretty surprised he was even coming because he had a pretty valid excuse not to come. His daughter she just graduated middle school, so they were having a party for her that weekend. So his plan was like, all right, I'll come down Friday. I'll leave at the crack of dawn, and like I'll come back up for the party on Saturday. I don't think my sister was thrilled about that. And because apparently I asked her, I was like, hey, do you mind if I invite Dave? And she was like, we have a busy week, but yeah, sure, invite him. And then as soon as I texted him, he's like, I'm there. He's like, I'm coming. So I don't think she was thrilled. But then he texted me. I didn't realize how much stuff I have to do before this party, basically. So he's like, I just can't. He's like, I can't swing it. And then my brother Rob is her godfather, so he didn't want to miss the party either. So, and he's a little older too, so I can't see him really going down to AC for a night and then driving back up and being a functional human for his family the rest of the weekend, honestly. So,
I don't know how I would have hung, Dave, to be honest with you. I don't know how well I would have hung because 3 a.m., no way, dude. No way. Like, I don't want to be there. By 1, I'm going, dude, I want to be impolite, but I'm out of here. I'm like I put in, as far as I'm concerned, I put in the good old college. I mean, 1 a.m. is late for me. But so I can get it, like I sort of get it. It would have been nice, of course, to have everybody. It was awesome seeing everybody at the shower. Just seeing Leah and Rob was amazing. Like, oh my gosh, so many memories come flooding back when I see them. It's crazy.
Well, and then it must be even weirder because you haven't seen them in so long, and now it's you have your family. Leah has her family. Rob now has his family, and it's like these people didn't exist when you knew them or when last time you saw them. And
right.
And your kids, I don't know. They might have been babies the last time you saw them. You know, I don't know.
Not even, dude.
Yeah, they might not have been born.
Wow. They weren't born.
Me and Rob, they may have seen them somewhere. I don't even think so. I don't think so.
So I had a college graduation party. I don't remember if you were there, but I do remember Leah brought her kids because I was at Dad's house, and I remember Dad met them, and he was the girls were alive. Leah's girls were alive, but they were babies. They were like 2, 3, maybe around that age.
Maybe, dude. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So, it's hard for me to remember.
It's almost.
Regardless, it was great seeing everybody, and so you go do the bar crawls. Does that take you through the night Saturday, or like is that?
We started during the day. We started at like 2, 3 o'clock, so it was like a daytime thing, and then we got back to the Airbnb. I don't know, around 7-ish. Got some pizzas, and then we went back out. But like we were struggling by the time we went out the second night. I kept telling him, I was like, I want to gamble a little bit. We went to the casino. We walked in, and I looked at everyone because it was like, I don't know, 10:30, 11 at this point. And I was just like, all right, we don't have to gamble because, they wanted to go to the strip club. So I was like, and truthfully, I wanted to go a little bit as well. So I was like, all right, well, if we gamble, we're never making it. I was like, everyone's fading quickly here. So we ended up just like, from the casino, we just walked over to the strip club that's on the strip.
And then you got your second wind.
A few of them did get a second win, but one of my friends was like,
I bet.
One of my friends, we walked in, he paid the copay, he just like looked at me, he's like, I don't know why I did this. He's like, I can't even function. He's like, I'm going home. He just laughed. He like paid the cover and then was just like, I'm out of here. I can't even sit in here right now.
Wow, really?
Oh, yeah. I tried to give
guys ordering coffees from the bar.
Right.
Espresso.
I tried to get Danielle's brother to get a lap dance because he had never been to a strip club before. This was his first time. So that was another thing, too, because originally when I brought it up that we were going to go to the strip club, he was like, I kind of want to go for the first time with my friends. Like, they sort of like made like a pact or something. Like, they would go to the strip club together for the first time. But then when I brought it up again, he was funny. He was like, yeah, I don't know why I said that to you when we brought it up the first time. He was like, I'm definitely down to go. He's like, I want to go. I was like, okay, cool. We'll go. Let's try to get him a lap dance, but he turned it down.
Gosh, he turned it down.
So then I ended up taking the lap dance from this lady. I was like, well, I already put you to work, so, I guess I'll take it. Yeah, just my arm.
The money's already spent. Oh, man. That's cool. So you guys there late? Okay.
I was going to ask you, how would your fiance feel about her brother getting a lap dance?
I told her what happened. So she was laughing about it, I think, because they have a very, I don't know if it's a unique relationship, because I would actually say it's unique in the aspect that Danielle had to do a lot of the child raising with her brother when she was younger, just because they were born in the Philippines, but then they moved to the States when her brother was like 1 or 2 years old. And her parents were working a lot when they came to the States. So she was kind of tasked with doing it. So they almost have it's almost not like a sibling relationship. It's almost like a little bit of like a maternal.
Yeah.
Like Danielle's almost like a mother figure in some ways to him. So like they've talked about this. They've like kind of evaluated themselves and been like, it's no one's fault, but they kind of want to have like more of like a sibling relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So so when I told her, she was laughing. She thought it was funny, taking the lap dance for instead of him. She was okay with that. It was just the one. Yeah, right. Like I said, twist my arm. But
I love immediately starts with the neck scratching, Dave. Anyway, that's all it was. You were next to a crack house, and oh my gosh, it's all coming together.
Well, I told Danielle. I told Danielle all that too, because, and maybe we can even talk about this. Just the difference in bachelorette and bachelor parties is just, I'm at I find a house that's like, oh, this is cheap. It holds 10 people or whatever. Turns out it's in a terrible neighborhood behind what is likely a crack house. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the funniest part of this house is in the kitchen there was a side door, If you look out the side door, you could tell someone had been sleeping right outside this door, probably within the week. There was like a half-drank bottle of Mad Dog. I think it's like a malt beverage. And then there's like an empty beer can, and then one of my friends walked out there, like opened the door, looked out there, was like, "There's condoms out here." It's like, so this homeless guy is like out here fucking, like, it's like, so somehow being safe, mind you, too.
Enough to be safe.
Conscious enough to be safe, but like, also probably having sex with some random woman on the side of this building, but it's like an interesting dynamic, I was getting the vibe that they don't fuck with the house, like if they know people are there, because they don't want any attention brought. I'm just getting the vibe they don't want any attention brought to them, because it can be very easily for them to like approach this house and try to get in. But we at one point, me and my one buddy, we were the last ones up on Saturday, and I was like, all right, I'm just leaving all the lights on down here, so like the people outside know that there's people occupying this residency right now.
That's smart.
And
are your cars okay there? Like your cars are just parked on the street?
There was a parking lot at the end of the street that you just had to pay like $20 or something to park overnight. So it wasn't. I'd rather that, honestly. I would not have parked on that street. Actually, what ended up happening is in the middle of the night on Saturday, there was a huge brawl in the middle of the street. That of course the cops didn't come to break up.
Good God!
It wasn't. None of my friends were involved in this, but it was just like a huge there was a party across the street that was being really loud, and then these guys who I think lived in this area were kind of like hung out on like the porch of the crack house area. And I think it was like that group and the group across the street, they just got into like a huge brawl in the middle of the street at like 4 a.m. It woke up one of my friends. That's how we know about it, because he had the window that was closest to the street, so he heard everything. And then he actually like walked out there and like kind of like watched it happen a little bit. And he was like, he's like, it just like ended, and the cops never came. It's like the other party just like went back to their party, like nothing happened.
Wow. Man, I don't want
cops don't want to have anything to do with that.
I really just don't want any part of it either. I swear, I'm just so over it at this point in my life.
But I was going back to my point before about how the differences between Danielle's bachelorette party and my bachelor party. So they get this nice Airbnb. It has this secret like speakeasy in the basement that's like, it was like she was showing me videos. I was like, that's so much nicer than the house I'm in. Now, to be fair, the house I was in was clean and like there was no issues there, like that was fine. But they had this crazy house, and there was like months of preparation. Her maid of honor and her man of honor, her friend Rob, they planned events each night. They had a whole theme for like each night. So like the first night they did a night of 1,000 Danielles, where they all dressed up like in a past outfit that she had been in.
Oh my gosh, like, that's hilarious.
Yeah, right. And I'm like trying to piece this together for me and my friends, and I'm like, we can go to dinner. All right, we missed dinner, so I guess we'll just pivot and go to the casino and eat some like shitty barbecue. So they had like everything planned. Like they had a food tour scheduled. They went out like to this burlesque club on one night that they had like all planned out. They stuck to their agenda, which I didn't do at all. Like we didn't stick to any part of the agenda that I set up. So it was making me laugh, because I was like, there's such a difference here, where it's like the girls planned everything and the bridal party was very involved, and maybe historically I could have leaned on you, Dante, to help with that, but you weren't even coming. So I was like, I can't ask you to do any of this. Like, you know what I mean? So
it probably would have been the same thing.
Right. Exactly. Well, like, I don't even know what you would have been able to plan anyway.
My experience is that, girls, painting with a broad brush here, right? Of course, there's exceptions to every rule. Like I feel like I have to say that, but my experience is girls and women generally are much better about wanting to adhere to an agenda.
Yes.
So it's like you said, Dave, like let's plan it all out well in advance, so we know where we're going to do, what we're going to do, and then we all follow the rules, and then also having someone who is like on top of everybody. Okay, it's time to go. It's time to go.
Yeah.
Because guys, first of all, guys don't want to be that way, and I think guys are much more like, we'll figure it out. I think there's part of that. I think there's a bit of the adventure component, especially for something like a bachelor party. Like even going back to what we were talking about before, that I think guys really love. But I also just think it's not in our nature, even if you have an agenda, to ride guys
That's
to
right.
be like getting somewhere on time, it
Yeah.
feels horrible, and they don't like it, and they tell you.
Yeah.
You know,
and they're not even going to listen.
They start
the only one.
You're like your mom. You know, like, okay, mom, thanks. You know, it's like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but 7:00 reservations for steak, guys. Like, you know, and they're like, yeah, we'll get there, whatever. And you're like,
yeah.
Then you got to ride. Okay, guys, time to go. Now we got to be. And all of a sudden you're like, I'm not having fun.
Yeah.
They don't like me. Like, we're not having fun. You're much more likely to be like, whatever. The bar crawl thing, Dave, to me makes perfect. That's exactly what would have happened with me. I'd have been like, help me understand why I thought it would be fun to go into a bar, go through all the whole effort of getting a drink, and then leaving immediately to go to another place. It's like, I'd much rather go in, start a tab, and just grow roots.
Not move.
Like, that's just how that's me.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know. Not all guys are like that. I know some guys love stuff like bar crawls and things like that.
What's funny, Don, is like a lot of things you were saying really resonated. So part of why Danielle's bachelorette party was successful is because her friend Rob, who's the man of honor, he was literally that person. He was being so strict with them. She was telling me, so like he would say things like, "All right, we have to leave." Like, why aren't you wearing your sunglasses? Put your sunglasses on. You know, it's like they're all wearing sunglasses right now. That's our theme. So like, you know, they all put it on and like they all left together on time and everything. And you know, he was like a drill sergeant. And you're right. I've been in situations in the past. I didn't do it this weekend, but I've been in situations in the past where you like have to take lead and try to organize these things. And I'll use the example of when I lived in the Somerville house with my two friends. I found myself at certain points being the one that was like, all right, like, let's clean. Like I have a specific memory of telling my friend Will, my roommate Will, I found his contact, like he disposed of his contacts and like there were just like contacts like stuck to the floor. And I was just like, hey man, like, you know, when you're throwing out, just like make sure you hit the garbage. And he was like, all right, Dad. Like he's like, what? He was just like, all right, bro. Like what the fuck? And I was like, okay. So now I don't want to like bring that up again because then. And or you just like clean up after them, I guess, right? Like I don't know.
Well, you know, but this is like that's what parenthood is like, right? I don't know if you'd say the same thing, Mike. It's like you have to be comfortable saying to them, "Yeah, okay, well maybe you need a dad." Like you're right. You're 25. It is silly that you need another man to tell you not to leave your contact lenses on the floor. You're right. Call me dad. Right. I'll be your daddy until you can figure out how to do this stuff yourself. Like that's where my mind goes. Because disrespect for something like that. Now, granted, you're in a situation there where it's like it's not as if you're paying for everything.
Right.
When you're the parent, you're paying for everything. It's much easier. But at the same time, kids still grow up with that same attitude. And I would argue, and nothing against your friend Will, but I'd argue that it's hard because it's his problem. You know what I mean? It's his problem.
Yeah.
You're trying to maintain boundaries. You're just like, I don't want to live in a house with shit on the floor.
Yeah, he's moving out of his house. He's on his own. He's probably like, I don't, you know, whatever. I'm taking my content out, kind of lackadaisically throwing them, like maybe he meant to throw them in the toilet or something like that, or just like stuck to his finger, and it just like ended up on the floor. Like obviously he didn't mean to do it, but it was still there. So and maybe if had you know, at that point I still don't have kids, but I didn't have kids, so it's not like I could learn from that experience either.
I get it, and he's your friend. Yeah. Like it's awkward. Like you don't want to be that. Like I don't know if you remember when we were living together in college, and I won't say who it was, but we were living in college and we had a couple of guys living with us who were notorious for this. I'll make a pot of beans, you know, and I'll leave it in the sink without water in it, you know, just like for the rest of the week. No, I'll wait until Sunday and then I'll clean all my dishes on Sunday. And you're like, yeah, well, the rest of us would like to use those dishes too. And at one point I gave one of our roommates a bit of an earful about it.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, Dad. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but they're my pots and pans too. Like I shouldn't have to like wait. Once you use a pot, it shouldn't be off limits to me for the rest of the week. Like that's not fair. You know, but kids, people are dealing with parents. You know, you're dealing with kids, people who have been coddled by their parents, or at least these things have been done for them by their parents. They don't.
Right.
I see it in my own kids, you know. And then you have to really get into the details. So it's like you wash the pots and pans, but you didn't wash the spatulas, and you didn't wipe the counter. So that's not everything, you know.
Exactly.
Sadly.
Yeah. No, it's always an argument. It's like, but I do clean up. I'm not talking about what you did yesterday. I'm talking about the shit on the floor right now.
Exactly.
But usually I would clean that up. So God, I made one mistake. That's fine. Clean it up.
Yeah, to your point too, Don, about the roommates. It's tough. I know we kind of changed topics there a little bit, but it also it can put friendships to the test a little bit. Like I mean, it's like if you're living. I mean, I know you and Mike were roommates, and obviously you guys came out fine. I'm still friends with the two guys I lived with, but I mean, admittedly, we don't hang out as much as we used to. You know what I mean? So it can put a strain if one person goes a little too hard or one person doesn't live up to the standards that the others are living to, so
that's it.
And
you and I are very similar. Like Dante and I have very, very similar standards.
Like domestic standards, exactly.
Yeah, but it was the other two guys that was a challenge.
Yeah.
For us.
Dave, to your point, that's exactly probably the reason that Mike and I were able to get along so well was because, I could rattle off the names of friends that I've had who I would say we get along because we have good senses of humor, and in the environments we were together, we found what was funny or like we got along great, but we wouldn't live together well.
Yeah,
because our standards for cleanliness and domestic whatever are just so different. Mike and I were so similar that it was really easy. But 100% true, Dave. And I see this now with my own kids. Joey went to not an event. He and his buddies went down the shore a week ago. They were there for like 3 nights. Cool. And he came back. He's like, "Wow, Dad, I have a whole new appreciation for one, like having nice things in the house. So actually having like pots and pans and like knives that work." I was like, "Oh yeah, you found that not every place is like that." And then 2, like upkeep. He's like, I can't believe. He's like, I never thought of myself as a particularly neat person, but when I was, just 2 nights with these other people, and I was like, wow, like people don't put down the toilet seat. People don't like rinse their dishes. They don't. Some of them have no understanding as to after how things get cleaned. It's like you just don't do it.
Yep.
I'm like, well, Joe, you were there for 2 nights, and some of the people you think are like your best friends, they may be great friends, but they're not people you could live with.
Yeah.
And just about everybody I know has learned one lesson or another. When they get to college, me and my buddies, blah, 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 we're going to live together, and they imagine it's going to be a party 24/7. And then real quick, you realize you're like, that's right. It's just not easy. It will test friendships. It'll end friendships, especially you get money involved now. You're dealing with paying rent, paying bills, and all that shit. Oh my gosh. Big time.
Very true.
Anyway, so you guys had this, we totally digressed. You guys went out Saturday night, and then what'd you do Sunday? Did you get up, do some breakfast or something, and then come home?
Essentially, we just kind of cleaned the place up, had to check out at 10 a.m. I had to drive my friend to the airport in Philly because he flew in. So that would, it was an hour away, but it actually wasn't bad because the 95 stuff had actually been cleaned up, believe it or not, already.
Okay.
So getting from Philly back to my house was actually pretty easy. I thought it was gonna be a lot worse. It was pretty easy. So it maybe added 20 minutes to my ride. Honestly, it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. So we did that, and then I was with my 2 other friends, and we were just like, part of my plan originally was like, hey, let's go out, let's get breakfast when we wake up.
Yeah.
That obviously did not happen. So we just from Philly on the way home, we stopped at a Wawa and got sandwiches and just kind of ate in the car real quick and then drove home. So
it's so much harder with guys. I tell you what, dude, I organized Mike's bachelor party, and I realized then, I'm like, yep, this is what it's like. It's not only about being on people to do things, but you gotta, you send the initial email. Hey guys, I'm Dante, Mike's best man. We're doing blah, blah, blah. I can't wait to get together. You get a couple guys, yes, I'm in, blah, blah, blah. And a couple guys don't respond. And then you got to follow up, and it's like at work. It's like managing an event at work, right? It's like you're sending emails. Hey, guys, we need to make a decision about it. And eventually you just go, all right, here's where we're going to be at this thing. Then we're going to go and do this. And you wait for people to complain. And it's sort of thankless because guys are notorious for being like nothing. And then the day before, it's like, why are we doing this? Then suddenly they're questioning the agenda. Why are we doing this? Why don't we just do this? And then, why don't 100%. We just? Why don't we just?
Right.